In November of 2018, in the wake of Stan Lee's death, Bill Maher, comedian and raunchy talk show personality, wrote a short post for his Tumblr account. Yes, Bill Maher has a Tumblr. The title of the piece is Adulting, and here, let me just read the first few sentences. The guy who created Spider-Man and the Hulk has died, and America is in mourning. Deep, deep mourning for a man who inspired millions to, I don't know, watch a movie, I guess? Someone on Reddit posted, I'm so incredibly grateful I lived in a world that included Stan Lee. Personally, I'm grateful I lived in a world that included oxygen and trees, but to each his own. I think you get the idea. Maher spends 3 paragraphs scolding adults for caring about Marvel and Stan Lee. The assumption everyone made back then, both the adults and the kids, was that comics were for kids, and when you grew up, you moved on to big boy books without the pictures. As you might imagine, the internet got quite mad about this one. There were many upset people, many tweets, many articles about this subject, so many articles. Eventually, the outcry led Bill Maher to raise the subject again, this time on TV. In a 2019 editorial segment called Grow Up, Maher responds to his haters, and it's really something.
Bragging that you're all about the Marvel universe is like boasting that your mother still pins your mittens to your sleeves.
So this segment is obviously very stupid. For one thing, I genuinely don't understand why Maher would care about this at all. I'm not huge into Stan Lee's comics, so I can't speak authoritatively on the subject, but even accepting that they were traditionally written for children, I don't think it's stupid to enjoy and sentimentalize them. I love Charlie and the Chocolate Factory and The Wizard of Oz and old Disney films, movies that are very much aimed at being fun for a child audience, and I don't think that makes me immature or stunted or whatever. Media for kids is good sometimes, obviously.
Spookly, watch your webs and you'll see Halloween is fun for pumpkins.
But also, the blog post and editorial segment are simply very mean, needlessly mean. Stan Lee, a legend in his industry, had just died, and even if you believe his work should be read exclusively by children, that doesn't mean you have to spit on his legacy. Deep, deep mourning for a man who inspired millions to, I don't know, watch a movie? This was a person and an artist, and he's dead. It's genuinely very rude. But here's the thing. I have to make a bit of a confession here. This shit just inexplicably makes me laugh. Bill Maher is acting like such a condescending asshole, and about an issue so minor, so stupid, so likely to make everybody mad, that it just kind of puts a smile on my face.
And by the way, if someone says you're being childish and you react by throwing a tantrum, you're not Iron Man. You're irony, man.
I don't know if I'm laughing with Bill or at him. I suspect it's a combination of the two. But I crack up when Maher says,
I'm not glad Stan Lee is dead. I'm sad you're alive.
I like this part where Maher talks about Marvel and racism.
Other people tweeted things like, I learned about social justice and racial tolerance by reading comic books. Okay, but now you have pubic hair. Read James Baldwin, read Toni Morrison, read Michael Eric Dyson.
It's dumb, but it's kind of iconic, right? You learned about racism from the Hulk. Okay, well, I learned about it from Malcolm X, so fuck off. Also, when I first saw it, I laughed weirdly hard at this Yogi Bear joke.
Until I saw that 40,000 Twitter followers unfollowed me like that. To which I say, good riddance, follow Yogi Bear.
It's such a cheesy line, and Maher delivers it with so much confidence and pride that I can't help but enjoy. Go follow Yogi Bear. Bill Maher is a troll, is my point. And maybe this is my own inner 12-year-old coming out, but there's something kind of fun to me about a troll, about being needlessly incendiary and stupid and mean. Still, being an annoying troll isn't funny on its own, is it? I don't just laugh whenever somebody's a douchebag. No, what I think makes this segment kind of work is that Bill Maher is being fundamentally honest with us. Yes, Stan Lee died. Yes, his work was overwhelmingly popular among children. Yes, Bill Maher made a very rude blog post about it. Yes, lots of people got mad at him. Every step of the way, Maher's jokes, his arguments, are founded on information that he provides to his audience. Information that we can think on, come to conclusions about. The monologue has integrity. It's not bullshitting us, and that's what allows it to feel a bit satisfying. Stupid in a funny way. So why am I talking about this Bill Maher monologue from 7 years ago? Well, it's to give you a taste of what Bill Maher means or meant to me. I remember as a kid on a road trip with my father listening to an audiobook where he shared his new rules, pithy one-liners about how culture should be.
New rule, conservatives have to stop abandoning their heroes just because they come out of the closet to reveal that they're sane. New rule, a new cashier line opening up at the drugstore does not mean that human civilization has broken down and the rules of society no longer apply. New rule, the stage show Stomp must change its name to Shut the Hell Up, I Can't Hear Myself Think.
I remember his film, Religulous, where he just walked around being rude to religious people.
How can smart people, how can they believe in the talking snake and people live to 900 years old and the virgin birth and...
It's all the same shtick, right? Maher is a smug liberal archetype. He makes out his every opinion to be divinely ordained, and he genuinely acts like he's the smartest man on planet Earth. That shtick is annoying. I've never been a fan of Maher, but it's also straightforward in its own way. I can imagine why somebody would like it. Over the last few months, I've fallen down a bit of a Bill Maher rabbit hole, watched editorial after editorial from him. And I know it might sound strange, but the more of Maher's work I watch, the more I look back at this video, where he, for no apparent reason, shits on the fans and legacy of a recently dead artist with a kind of nostalgia. So I want to start our look at Bill Maher with a kind of odd video, an editorial that he released in 2023 defending Mr. Beast and his philanthropic work from the horde of haters.
One of the more mind-blowing stories of this year was about the internet celebrity Mr. Beast, and how he was always getting raked over the coals for a series of charitable endeavors.
So look, I know that Mr. Beast is a controversial figure on the internet, particularly with regard to his philanthropy, but this video isn't actually about Mr. Beast, right? Like, I don't care about this 101 facts activity book about Mr. Beast. I don't care about Mr. Beast's lab swarms 5 micro beasts inside. You know, that's not what this is about. I don't care about Mr. Beast Lab, make your own Mr. Beast. That doesn't mean anything to me. I don't care about this awesome, cool Mr. Beast hat that I bought and that makes me look fucking sexy. It doesn't matter to me. Rather, I want to look at this editorial because it's kind of a perfect case study for understanding who Bill Maher is as a writer and political thinker. I'm less interested in the material and more interested in looking really meticulously at the way it's constructed, how Maher takes us through his argument. Maher starts by talking about a Mr. Beast video where Jimmy Beast pays for cataract surgery for 1,000 people.
Cool, huh? Wrong. He filmed their overjoyed reactions, which to many made him a performative altruist. A Washington Post reporter tweeted, "What truly needs curing is society's view of disabled people." And BuzzFeed agreed, Mr. Beast seems to regard disability as something that needs to be solved.
So when we look at these quotes, everything is mostly as Maher describes it. While Taylor Lorenz, at the time employed by the Washington Post, did not directly say that what needs curing is society's view of the disabled, she did lovingly quote tweet Stephen Aquino, who said that line and wrote an article partly on the subject. As far as the BuzzFeed article goes, I don't know. While the author, Kelsey Weekman, does say the quote Maher attributes to her, the article itself doesn't seem like it's arguing that case so much as giving a summary of the discourse. Either way, I'll say that Maher is starting off pretty straightforward here. There's a group of people who believes there's something ableist about Mr. Beast's cataract surgery video, and at least 2 of those people are being quoted. And you know, Maher doesn't like that. He's angry about it.
Mr. Beast, whoever the fuck that is, just cured them and you didn't do shit.
Things get a bit more strained after this point, though. Let me play you Maher's next example of a Mr. Beast hater.
Mr. Beast, in another dick move, funded the construction of 100 wells across 5 countries in Africa to provide clean drinking water to 500,000 people. Good thing, right? No. The founder of a charity called Face Africa called it kind of frustrating that overnight this person comes along who happens to be a white male figure with a huge platform, and all of a sudden he gets all of the attention. Yes, but you know what else is frustrating? dying of thirst.
So I think it's fair to say that Maher is simply lying here. He's clearly suggesting that Saran Kaba-Jones is like calling out Mr. Beast, and that's not true. This quote is from a CNN article, and that article is mostly centered on various Kenyan voices expressing disappointment, saying that it's a shame that random YouTubers are stepping in to solve Kenya's problems as opposed to, the country's government. Activist Boniface Mwangi said, "We are a shameful, horrible country, a begging nation governed by millionaires." And Ferdinand Omondi said, "It's embarrassing that a YouTuber jetted into Kenya on a charity tour to perform tasks our taxes should have completed ages ago." And Jones is basically just agreeing with them, saying that she and others try to get attention on water access in Kenya, but that nobody cares, nobody's funding a solution. A white guy YouTuber is more influential than activists and organizations and governments. As Jones said to CNN, "I've been doing this for 15 years, but we've been struggling to continue the work because funding, awareness, and advocacy all take work." She goes on in this video to praise Mr. Beast for what he did, though obviously Bill Maher does not see fit to include that. I wonder why. And we see Maher being dishonest just a few seconds later, albeit in a more subtle way.
Another thing this asshole did in Africa was pay for the rebuilding of an African orphanage, which the director of the Hope and Homes for Children charity called it a classic case of white saviorism.
So Maher misquotes the activist he's discussing. Lorenza Foghill did not say that Mr. Beast constructing the orphanage was a classic case of white saviorism. She said, "Is it a classic case of white saviorism? Arguably yes, but ... Now, you might think that difference is unimportant. The Daily Mail, the conservative slot paper that first ran this story, certainly agrees. Their headline reads, "Mr. Beast slammed as white savior." But in cases like this, I think you should always ask the question, if it doesn't matter, why did they lie? Why did they change it? And in this case, I think the difference matters quite a bit. For one thing, that Foghill says, "Is that a classic case of white saviorism?" suggests to me that she was probably asked some leading question. Do you think that was a classic case of white saviorism, Lorenza? Well, arguably so. You can imagine a Daily Mail journalist doing that. But more importantly, changing Foghill's question into a statement allows Maher to paint her criticism as very simple and accusatory. Her general issue, the audience would naturally guess, is that Mr. Beast's actions were performative or racist or something. But no, that's not it at all. Foghill runs a charity called Hope and Homes for Children, and Bill Maher doesn't say this, but the entire purpose of that organization is to get kids out of orphanages. This is her full quote from before. "Is it a classic case of white saviorism? Arguably yes, but one thing is for sure, Mr. Beast is denying the so-called orphans from Bapu Malele their right to grow up in a family." See, Hope and Homes claims that 80% of the children in orphanages in the global south do actually have parents, and that the children taken from these families are worse off for it, more likely to end up homeless or in trouble with the law. And Foghill's issue is not really with white saviorism or with Mr. Beast, the person. She actually says some pretty nice stuff about him. Her issue is that he built an orphanage and advertised the building of orphanages. She thinks directly giving family support is a far better option, and she spent her life devoted to that belief. Now let me ask you, realistically, do you think Maher's point would have been as persuasive if he'd included this context? Well, maybe, but I don't think so. In the end, Maher shows us one thing perfectly curated for his argument, that this woman hates Jimmy Beast because he's a white, honky show-off, and that's all we need to know.
Ask any orphan to name the worst part of their life. Show-offs!
At the end of this bit, Maher says this.
How did we get to this weird place? Telling people who are actually out in the world making a positive difference, you're the problem. Yeah, quick question, who the fuck are you?
And it really cements the perspective he wants us to have on these women. Who the fuck are you, he asks. Bill, these people you're quoting aren't just angry guys on Twitter. They had organizations devoted to the subject they're opining about. And yet Bill needs to minimize them. He quotes them because people might take their opinion seriously, and then ignores everything about them. Okay, now things take a turn. See, Bill Maher isn't just interested in tweets and articles. No, the culture he wants to criticize is far bigger than that. It goes all the way to the National Institutes of Health.
And this isn't only the media and the people on Twitter who exist to bitch, always finding something. This is also the National Institutes of Health, which last year proposed to amend their mission statement to exclude the word disability, saying it, quote, could be interpreted as perpetuating ableist beliefs that disabled people are flawed and need to be fixed. Let me take this moment to go on record. Folks, if I am ever struck blind or deaf or paralyzed, don't praise me. Fix me.
I would say this is the part of the video where things start to feel like gibberish. Like Maher says, this isn't just confined to Twitter or media, which exists only to whine, but what exactly isn't confined to those things? What issue? So far, the problem has been all about people being overly critical and judgmental, right? Poo-pooing Mr. Beast. Bill Maher is a huge beast head, you see, and so he hates to see people, coming after his boy. Bill Maher loves beast games. Bill Maher would love to try ice creams at different levels of price. He doesn't like to see his hero being taken apart like this. But that problem doesn't seem to extend past the media, at least not in this case. The NIH isn't against Mr. Beast or against giving away cataract surgery. They actually work with an organization that does that. No, when Maher says this goes further than Twitter and the media, he is actively conflating two things that have almost nothing to do with each other. Yes, both Stephen Aquino, the guy who wrote the anti-Mr. Beast article from before, and the NIH want to destigmatize disability, but that's a very loose connection, right? And one that has nothing at all to do with the supposed thesis of the video that we spent like 5 minutes talking about. At this point, Maher takes aim at a new issue: how liberal woke type people turn everything into a political identity group.
That's the problem. We turn everything into a political identity category. You're deaf, that's your identity. Don't mess up a good thing by hearing.
The examples he brings of this phenomenon happening are also just really weak. Like, he says this about Adele.
Adele lost weight. She was excoriated for betrayal. To who?
I'm not sure if this happened, but I read all the articles he put on the screen, and none of them involve anybody excoriating Adele. By the way, just to get at how incredibly lazy Maher's show sometimes is, that top article there, it's not even about Adele's weight loss. It's about people making fun of her for being fat. It was written in 2017, before she even lost the weight. This is national television, and the people responsible for putting it together just typed into Google Adele body shaming and popped in the first result to their show that they get paid money to create. Don't you think that, doesn't that suck? Maher also claims that the woke have turned homeless people into an identity group, quite unlike Maher, who just wants to get them off the street.
The woke have even turned the homeless into a political identity group, as opposed to liberals, old school liberals, who just want to get them off the street, which now is seen as kind of judgy.
Again, who? Maher shows someone holding a sign saying no displacements, eviction kills. But those people, according to their Instagram, want the British Columbian government to stop evicting homeless people from encampments without, quote, adequate housing alternatives. Another person holds a sign saying we need long-term solutions. Another holds a sign saying services, not sweeps. You get the idea, I think. Everybody wants homeless people off the streets, Bill. The question everyone's asking, including the woke people, is what we should do about the issue. They're not pro the streets because they're anti-homeless raids. Maher ends this rant with a bit about the ice bucket challenge.
When I did the ice bucket challenge back in 2014, I thought I was helping the cause of funding research to cure ALS. Wrong again. An op-ed in Time magazine said the ice bucket challenge even seems to be suggesting that being cold, wet, and uncomfortable is preferable to fighting ALS.
Do you guys remember the ice bucket challenge where you pour ice all over yourself and it's to fund ALS? Bill Maher's Mr. Beast rant was from 2023. People were talking about the ice bucket challenge in like 2014. Move on, Bill. It's over. It's time to move on. So, okay, while I do think it's quite odd that Maher went back a full decade to find this strange article, the article does indeed exist, and it straightforwardly includes the point that he quotes. So yeah, Maher ends on a good note. That's a W for Maher, I guess. So, okay, we've gone through this entire video now. You've seen the dazzling highs, you've seen the lows. Now let's try to evaluate what just happened to us. If I wanted to draw a map of Bill Maher's editorial, I think it would look something like this, a series of concentric circles. At the center of the circle is this article judging Mr. Beast and his blindness video. This is the point at which Maher's video is the most grounded, right? Most constructed around a real event. Some guy is mad at Mr. Beast. But then Maher spirals further and further into this kind of broad sludge. First the African activists, then the National Institute of Health, then Adele and the anti-homelessness people. There is a strange, incomprehensible line Maher uses to connect somebody who doesn't like Mr. Beast to this strange assembly of people who hate everything that he loves.
What is wrong with this country that so many people can't be happy for anything for even a second?
The purpose of this video is not to talk about Mr. Beast, to rally against his haters. That much is obvious. No, the point is to produce an identity, a cultural moment, a woke public. And given that, I think it only makes sense to ask, what is Bill Maher's public? How does it work? And what does it exist to do? Do you guys remember when Kamala Harris was talking to Stephen Colbert, and Stephen Colbert was like, why were you so mean to Joe Biden in the presidential debates, but now you seem to like him? And she was like, it was a debate.
It was a debate.
And then she just keeps saying it like over and over again. Like,
not everybody landed punches like you did, though.
It was a debate.
And then like over the course of the conversation, it seems like Stephen Colbert is getting like a little bit uncomfortable because he's like, okay, but could you answer the question though? Like, it was a debate. Let me show you my name.
It was a debate. That's the whole reason. Literally, it was a debate. It was called a debate.
Look at this face.
I understand.
I understand, but could you answer? I think when I look back, that was one of the worst days of my life. In November of 2024, in the wake of Donald Trump's victory, Bill Maher released an editorial titled, Tough Love, Dems.
New rule, someone must tell the usual suspects on the far left that the saying is, when you're in a hole, stop digging, not keep digging.
The segment, as you can no doubt guess, is about the many failures of the Democrats that led to their losing the election, and let's watch a bit of it together.
You wear Queers for Palestine t-shirts and masks 2 years after the pandemic ended. And you can't define woman, I mean person who menstruates. You're the teachers' union education party, and you've turned schools and colleges into a joke. You just lost a crazy contest to an actual crazy person.
The general gist of the segment is that the Democrats have gone too woke. They wear masks and they're queer for Palestine, and they don't know what a woman is. And believe me, we'll talk about a few of those issues soon, put a pin in that, but for now, I want to focus on that line Maher says at the end.
You just lost a crazy contest to an actual crazy person.
So here's my question. Who does the word you refer to in that sentence? Because surely it's not Kamala, right? While I think you could make the argument that Kamala Harris was broadly supportive of trans people, everything else Bill Maher points to doesn't apply to her at all. Did Kamala wear a Queers for Palestine t-shirt? I don't remember that. In my recollection, she mostly suggested that a ceasefire between Palestine and Israel would be nice, but largely maintained the Biden party line, Israel good, AIPAC good.
When we think about the threat that Hamas, Hezbollah presents, Iran, I think that it is, without any question, our imperative to do what we can to allow Israel to defend itself against those kinds of attacks.
Did Kamala spend a lot of her campaign talking about masking? No, I don't think so. Maher has this whole section about how it was called racist to talk about the Wuhan lab leak theory for the origin of COVID-19.
See, it says right on it, we believe in science. Right, which is why you demanded no one even debate whether COVID could have escaped from the one lab in the one city where they were studying it. How far-fetched. The New York Times called it racist.
But did Kamala call it racist? What did she say about it? See, there was a crazy contest. That's what Maher thinks, but it wasn't really between two people, two candidates. In fact, I don't think that Maher believes that Kamala was crazy. The worst thing he ever said about her was that she was an unpopular candidate.
And as a former prosecutor, Kamala was putting criminals in jail back before liberals decided that was a bad thing. And for whatever reason, Harris has never been popular.
No, the race was between one person, Donald J. Trump, and a vague group of people, the woke. And while that might seem strange or unfair to you, I actually think this sort of gesture is central to the way that Bill Maher understands culture. Put simply, he believes that there is a class of woke people in America that are A, extremely dumb and corrosive to our politics.
Yesterday, I asked ChatGPT, are there any similarities between today's woke revolution and Chairman Mao's cultural revolution of the 1960s? And it wrote back, how long do you have?
And B, almost singularly responsible for the success of Donald Trump.
Fetterman says the 4 words that strike fear in the heart of every Republican who wants to hang on to power. I am not woke. That's why Trump won. Try making too woke be a cancelable offense. You wanted more reassurance that the Democrat isn't going to go along with every aggressively anti-common sense idea that comes out of the woke mind virus, which, yes, is a thing. And if she loses, that will be mainly why.
Like, I've watched a ton of the man's editorials, and while I'm sure it's happened at some point, I literally cannot remember him ever pointedly blaming any other person, policy, ideology, or social tendency for the rise of the MAGA movement. This is the purpose of much of Bill Maher's work, justifying these central claims. And as it turns out, that's a pretty complicated and interesting task. So do you guys know about Labubus at all? They're these like really popular Chinese toys that are just like popping off right now, and everyone likes them because they're just cute little guys, and a K-pop celeb named Lisa, repped them a lot, and everyone's just really into them. So one thing that I like to do in my spare time is look up Labubu hate videos. So I looked up the phrase Labubu overconsumption on youtube.com, and let me read you a list of the videos that I found. TikTok's Labubu obsession and overconsumption is insane. Labubu dolls are destructive overconsumption propaganda. Labubu overconsumption is out of control. The Labubu hype is out of control. Has the Labubu obsession gone too far? Why the Labubu obsession might not be so innocent after all. I am halfway through this list. There's so many, and this is not like an extensive list. There's at least like 30 videos about Labubu overconsumption. To be clear, I'm not here in this video to litigate whether or not Labubu overconsumption has gotten out of control. I mean, I don't think it has. I think they're literally cute little guys, personally. I don't think there's any problem with them. But that's not what I'm here to say. What I'm here to say is there's no way all these people give a shit about Labubus, right? There's no way all these people think this is like a serious issue that 45 people need to talk about to hundreds of thousands of people. No, what this phenomenon really makes me think about is how, our thoughts really aren't our own. We're not upset about Labubus. We don't give a shit about Labubu overconsumption. Do you know how many things are overconsumed in our culture? There's no way this rises to the level that merits this much hate. No, what it is this kind of public performance of incredulity, this culture that decides this is what we hate today and this is important. And this is what I think about when I think about Bill Maher. Do you know that make sense? Mm-hmm. Let's talk about an opinion piece Maher produced in March of 2025 called Guilt by Civilization.
And finally, new rule memo to Democrats. If you ever want to win an election again, the absolute most important first step is stop doing this.
We gather in celebration of the Oscars on the ancestral lands of the Tongva, Tataviam, and Chumash peoples, the traditional caretakers of this water and land.
Yeah, I don't know if we're still saying cringe.
The basic argument of the opinion piece is that progressive type people should stop dwelling on historical acts of imperialism and oppression done by the Western world. The piece actually has a similar structure to the Mr. Beast video we already watched, though it's significantly less well researched, if you can believe it. Maher starts, as you saw, by saying he doesn't like land acknowledgements. He then talks about a mountain in New Zealand being given the status of a person.
Now, a few weeks ago in New Zealand, a modern, educated, technologically advanced country, they passed a law making a mountain a person.
Something that, it didn't happen in woke America and is completely irrelevant to anything. And then he ends the segments with around 5 minutes of just saying over and over again, indigenous people weren't perfect. They weren't without sin. Woke people have to stop acting like Indians were so good.
Can we please get over this idea that ancient people weren't just as full of shit, in fact, more full of shit than humans today? It's so simplistic, this idea of guilt by civilization. What the European invaders did to the Indians, not good, but also not unusual. American Indians waged wars constantly.
Do you guys ever just find yourself editing a video about Bill Maher for your YouTube channel, and Bill Maher points out that indigenous peoples in America did war sometimes, and he ends that point by making that face, that classic Bill Maher face that lets you know that, he's really cooking with this point. This is a point for the big boys. You can't handle this if you're a snowflake and he's looking at you in the eyes and you're looking at him and you just think to yourself, what the fuck am I doing? So just taken as an argument, this is pretty crazy, isn't it? I don't think a lot of people are out there saying that indigenous American society was some pure utopia. And even the phrase American Indian society is misleading, right? There were a lot of societies in North America and they were intricate and varied. Honestly, this vision of the American Indian as a noble savage is more reminiscent of Disney's Pocahontas and the Na'vi Avatar people than it is of any modern Indian activist movement. And that's probably why Maher doesn't quote a single person who says anything he's ranting against, not once in the whole video. More to the point, I don't think the desire to take accountability for anti-Indian atrocities comes with the implication that Indians were perfect people. I'm a Jew, right? And I don't think Jews are always amazing. We're human beings just like everyone else. I don't agree with everything Moses got up to. But Bill, that doesn't mean we have to dredge all that stuff up at Auschwitz, right? Yeah, what Adolf Hitler did was bad, but the Jews were no angels, right? They had their shittier moments.
Did you ever see the movie Apocalypto?
It's just not a very good argument. That's my point. What I find more interesting about this video, though, is how bold a claim it's making about American society.
And finally, new rule memo to Democrats. If you ever want to win an election again, the absolute most important first step is stop doing this.
So I take Maher to be speaking in a comically hyperbolic way here, right? He doesn't actually think this is the most important issue for the Democrats. That would be silly. Nonetheless, I do think he takes this idea seriously, that American woke types are overly invested in putting down Western history and that this is alienating to the would-be Democrat voter. He gets mad at the woke about this in another unrelated opinion piece, so I think it's fair to say it's an issue that's close to his heart.
How we teach our kids history has become a big controversy these days, with liberals accusing conservatives of wanting to whitewash the past, and sometimes that's true. Sometimes they do. But plenty of liberals also want to abuse history to control the present.
And honestly, I just don't see where he's coming from. How often does the average guy get confronted with the historical atrocities America has committed? How often is this done in a way he or Bill Maher would find upsetting or stupid or cringy or anything? It certainly isn't a common feature of my life, and between his two videos on the subject, Maher only brings up this one example, the land acknowledgement thing. And even then, what a minor understated event. It just doesn't seem like the sort of thing people would linger on to this extent, Now, to be clear, there are some people who really do care about this kind of thing and think about it a lot. PragerU has a video that makes precisely the points that Maher does about indigenous Americans.
Columbus was not blameless. He sold natives into slavery. But the explorer did not invent slavery. which was common around the world long before and long after Columbus's time.
The movie God's Not Dead, We the People has a whole bit about how liberals want to tarnish the name of our beautiful founding fathers.
And as far as owning slaves, absolutely, some did. But many did not. But they all get tarred with the same brush.
But why?
Donald Trump, in his first term, introduced the 1776 Report, a work of quack history meant to reinstill patriotic values in American education and which wholly omits talk of American Indians.
It will encourage our educators to teach our children about the miracle of American history.
But see, the mere presence of these people isn't enough to make Maher's case compelling. Each of the works I just listed are made by diehard conservatives, right? Do they really represent votes Kamala Harris stood to win? And if so, what could she do to win them? Lie about and distort American history like they do? Did the land acknowledgement at the Oscars really cost the PragerU vote? And Bill Maher, of course, doesn't answer these questions. It's not merely that he provides no evidence for his claims, no polling or interviews that suggest that woke judgment of American historical figures are some front-of-mind issue for much of the electorate. He also just doesn't explain the basic mechanism through which this theory is supposed to work. Which people are being alienated? What do those people believe? How serious is this quote-unquote problem? This is the first and maybe the most essential quality of Maher's woke theory of modern politics. We must never be invited to understand how or why it works. Okay, let me pause for a second. My point in this video is not to suggest that I have the answer for why Kamala Harris lost the 2024 election. I originally included a rant here about all the reasons I think Kamala lost, but I couldn't figure out why you should care about my opinion, so I cut it out. Suffice it to say, while I disagree with Maher's wokeness hypothesis, while I think other factors were far more important to Kamala's loss, that's not actually my main issue with what Maher's saying. Rather, my problem is, he's just kind of talking, like there's no substance to any of it. I think Maher, in all of these videos, is basically just taking his own personal gripes with woke culture and saying, because I care about these things, they must be of vital importance to the nation. And there are some glaring problems with that kind of analysis. For one thing, it just doesn't do a good job at the thing it's ostensibly trying to do. Say I was a moderate or a conservative, and I wanted to convince you that Harris's far-left policy proposals were the proximate cause for her failure. Well, I probably wouldn't start with random people wearing masks in 2024 or wearing Queers for Palestine t-shirts. Those are just random cultural buzzwords that he's just listing off the dome, right? No, I'd probably want to start with something more like climate policy. In a New York Times cinema poll from 2024, 44% of respondents said that Kamala was too liberal, compared to 32% who said that Trump was too conservative. And one thing I was quite disappointed to see was that the people polled really didn't seem to like climate change stuff. A slim majority were opposed to banning fracking, and 66% somewhat were strongly supported increasing fossil fuel production. This isn't a small issue. Kamala Harris ran a pretty environmentalist campaign in 2020, supported the Green New Deal. And while she tried to distance herself from that, it would make sense that voters wouldn't believe her. Now, am I saying that Kamala lost because of her support for the Green New Deal in 2020? No, I'm definitely not saying that. But I think that certainly is one argument you'd want to make if your goal was to convince people that Kamala was too progressive to win. So why doesn't Maher include this point, one about an actual policy that Kamala supported and that quite a lot of people seem to dislike? Well, I think it's because Maher is like me on this issue.
The reason I'm so mad at the Democrats is because as a voter, the issues that were important to me were democracy and the environment. And now, there's no one to champion or defend either of them.
He really wants us to do something about global warming, and so that stuff, it can't be woke, right? Things I like can't alienate conservative voters. That would be unthinkable. And that leads us to a bigger issue. People who vote for Trump aren't that much like Bill Maher. Here's the thing about Bill Maher. In 2024, he voted for and supported Kamala Harris over Donald Trump.
Kamala, it's so important that you win this election, not just for the sake of retaining a real democracy and for the good of the world, but also because I predicted a month ago you'd win this thing, and if you blow it, it's going to make me look bad.
That's a big issue, I think. Bigger than it looks. Maher seems to imagine that the average voter is like him in a huge number of ways. They have the same attitudes. They find the same woke stuff annoying and alienating. But if these culture war arguments are so persuasive, why didn't they persuade him? You can see another example of this problem in a recent video he made, where he talks about how people like Joe Rogan and Elon Musk went conservative because of woke people and liberal heckling.
Who, like Joe, is another guy who 5 years ago was thought of as a liberal, but got driven into the other camp by bad attitudes and bad ideas. A reversal I completely understand, although I would never emulate. I also see the woke mind virus. I just don't jump from frying pans into fires.
He makes a reference there to himself, right? To how he understands perfectly why leftist heckling might drive somebody toward the right. But then we have to ask, based on this logic, why isn't Bill Maher a self-declared conservative? What's so spectacular about his brain that he didn't succumb to this kind of social pressure? It's totally unclear. See, the problem is that Maher seems outright unwilling to consider the possibility that he might be quite different from other people, have different political and ideological priorities. Elon Musk disowned his trans daughter. He seems to believe that white genocide is happening in South Africa. He has donated hundreds of millions of dollars to Donald Trump. He is obviously pathologically obsessed with having an ever-expanding brood of children. The other week, he seems to have pressed the Nazi button on Twitter and made Grok AI the Hitler robot. Point being, Elon Musk is an eccentric guy. Why would we assume that the reason Maher might be inclined toward the right, people being mean to him on the internet, is the reason that Musk was inclined toward the right?
They tried real hard to cancel Rogan a few years ago. And when Elon hosted Saturday Night Live in 2021, well before he was a Trumper, some of the cast members gave him the cold shoulder for the sin of being rich. You think people don't remember when you do this shit to them? That it's not going to have blowback? Now me, again, you don't have to win me back because I never left.
Maher here just straightforwardly lacks a theory of mind, right? And that's not very good if you want people to take your political opinion seriously. And leaving all this aside, perhaps the biggest issue with Maher's methodology is that he fails to recognize how he's putting his hands on the scale of this culture war. Let me ask you a question. Who is more likely to decide that progressives are constantly guilting them about indigenous Americans and that it's a big problem with the culture of Democrats? Someone watching the Oscars or someone watching Bill Maher make a horrible argument about it for 8 unyielding minutes? See, Maher believes that wokeness is a big problem, but in truth, he's actively in the business of producing wokeness. Finding articles and misquoting them for his 2-minute anti-liberal hates, taking extremely normal things, people saying that America's past had a lot of cruelty and bloodshed, and strawmanning them, pretending they're horrible or stupid or delusional. Bill Maher is not some passive observer in culture. No, he actively creates the moral justifications for voting Trump that he then condemns. And given that, I think his ability to look at this issue with any kind of distance or objectivity is deeply in question. Of course, he says that his weekly cringe compilations are important political commentary. You know, that's literally his job. You might assume that all these problems would present some issue to Maher's worldview, but the advantage of his vibes-based method is that it doesn't require or even really permit explanation. Maher is the oracle of political truth, and he has determined that the world works in this remarkably simple way. There is the American voting population, and there are woke people, and when the voting population sees the woke people, they decide to vote for Donald Trump. That's it. That is all we need to know. And this simplistic, hard to pin down way of understanding the woke public only becomes more important as we dive deeper into Maher's work. So if you're aware of Steven Crowder, the conservative political commentator, you might be aware of the fact that in his earlier career, one thing he really liked to do was dress up as a woman and go to events and make jokes about trans sorts of stuff. Like, in this video, he's at like a Democratic convention.
Stephanie, with all the frequencies of a feminism, and I am here at the Women's
He's
March
like a woman.
to march for progress and equal rights, which are human rights, and we're just going to see what they're marching, everything.
So basically in this video, he literally just has a pretty good time at the Democratic convention. Like, there's no problems. Everyone's just super nice to him. But there's this one moment that I find really interesting, like 40 seconds in, and let me find it and play it for you.
We quickly found out that nobody questions, criticizes, nor runs security background checks on trannies.
We quickly found that nobody questions, criticizes, or runs security background checks on trans people. At like protests? Like to go to random fucking protests? Nobody does background checks? It's such an interesting line because there's this sort of implication of injustice going on, right? Like, you know, nobody should have allowed this random fucking person into the protest. Nobody should have let this happen. But when you really think about it, he's not referring to anything. He's just having a good day at the protest.
This puppy grabs back. Even hype.
Okay. Okay, let's move on for a while and talk about trans people. That's kind of the essential woke issue these days, right? And it's something Maher has strong feelings about. So let's get into it. It's actually pretty revealing, I think. At times, it seems like Maher's main problem relating to trans stuff is with kids getting gender-affirming care, puberty blockers, hormone therapy, etc.
The answer can't always be that anyone from a marginalized community is automatically right, trump card, mic drop, end of discussion. Because we're literally experimenting on children.
He has a video where he claims that puberty blockers might prevent people from having orgasms based on nothing.
We do know it hinders the development of bone density, which is kind of important if you like having a skeleton. Fertility and the ability to have an orgasm seem also to be affected.
It's really nothing, by the way. That person he quotes, Marcy Bowers, seemingly just said this about puberty blockers. There's no evidence, no testing, no reason to believe it's true. Anyway, later on, Maher drops the concern over puberty blockers and makes this kind of propagandistic half-joke about giving kids bottom surgery, something that essentially never happens.
Maybe the girl who hates girly stuff just needs to learn that being female doesn't mean you have to act like a Kardashian. Maybe childhood makes you sad sometimes, and there are other solutions besides hand me the dick saw.
You get the idea, right? He's just asking questions. He's just worried about the kids, and you can never be wrong or biased or overly sensational if you're worried about the kids. Sometimes, though, Maher's trans discourse becomes way more straightforward and direct. Like he's mad that people can't define what a woman is, and he's worried about how trans people are so different from gay people because they weren't born this way.
In a fundamental way, trans and gay are almost exact opposites, because gay is all about, I was born this way.
Right.
And trans is, the way I'm born, fuck that.
It's really quite stupid. In the introduction to his recent book, Maher writes, in an attempt to embody the conservative perspective,
you on the left no longer understand what humans are, and you are upending even more fundamental norms of life itself. For example, you don't seem to know what a woman is, and we just can't trust the country to people that are that divorced from reality. Yes, I get that argument. It's why I say in one of the editorials, let's get this straight. It's not me who's changed, it's the left.
Maher thinks, very obviously, that all this woke gender affirmation stuff has gone too far, and that it's making Democrats look bad. So there's a lot we could say about Bill Maher's treatment of trans stuff, of course, but here I just want to focus on one question. What does Bill Maher want from the Democrats? How does he think America should solve its woke trans problem? Like he says, the Dems can't even define what a woman is, and I get that that's hilarious and awesome. I mean, Matt Walsh made a whole documentary about saying that over and over again. It's that incredible.
What is a woman?
But what does Maher think should be done about that question? Did he want Joe Biden to go on a stage and say, oh yeah, trans people? Fucking stupid. They think they're women, but according to my dick and balls definition, they're not. Choke on that. I mean, that's what Matt Walsh wants. He wants to define trans people out of existence and erase trans ideology from this earth.
We are not going to rest until every child is protected, until trans ideology is entirely erased from the earth.
But it's not clear that that's Maher's dream, and he certainly doesn't like to act like it is. So what does he think? Maher thinks healthcare for trans children is a huge problem. Alright, what's next? Should we ban this kind of care? What kind of trans healthcare gatekeeping does Maher find appropriate, and to what extent are we not meeting that goal? In his opinion piece, Maher is totally non-committal, wishy-washy.
I'm sure the vast majority of parents do not take this lightly, and that it's very hard to know when something is real or just a phase. And I understand being trans is different, it's innate. But kids do also have phases.
So what does he want? Where is the woke problem, and what might solving it look like? Here's the thing, 80% of Democrats want trans people to be legally protected from discrimination. 74% don't want to ban gender-affirming care for minors. These are vast majorities, and that makes sense to me. Why should the government explicitly deny the validity of trans people, produce a definition for woman that categorically excludes trans women? Why should Democrats look at the conservative population, one that boycotted a beer because a trans lady sold it one time, and say, that's fine, we should trust them with the healthcare of our children. They clearly know more than doctors and medical institutions and parents and children. See, Maher presents trans ideology as this fringe issue that's gone too far, but he's only able to do that because he omits the politics part of politics. The part where we ask what exactly should be done, how we should treat people, and how governments should treat people. All that is a blur to him. This is another essential quality of Maher's woke public. It doesn't totally exist. Even as they do incredible harm to politics, even as they directly cause the election of Trump, we must never see them as people who need to be persuaded or thought about. We're never even given the tools to understand why they suck so much, what horrible things they want. The woke public is real and it's dangerous, but it's not composed of human beings, and that's very much part of the point. So I can explain what I mean. Let me talk about another favorite video subject for Bill Maher, how Americans should just get along. He has this one editorial called American Elegy, released in September 2024.
Why don't we just resist our worst impulses? And next time we're tempted to be hateful and just want the other side to die, stop.
The basic idea of this video is that Americans aren't all that different from each other. We all have coffee shops and use iPads. People from Kansas voted to retain their abortion rights. You get the idea.
Eureka Springs, Arkansas is home to a 70-foot-tall statue of Jesus and is also the place the Advocate called the gayest small town in America.
We should turn down the volume on our political polarization because, as they say, some people in red states are homosexual. Maher has made this same point many times. In another piece called Don't Ruin Christmas, he castigates liberals for not wanting to be around their Trump-voting family members.
I get it that for the Democrats, this was a brutal loss, but the plan to deal with it has to be something better than stay in a snit and take advantage of this magical time of year to cut people off.
We shouldn't be mean or rude. We should try to help people out. That's how we heal.
The chief psychiatric resident at Yale University, Amanda Calhoun, recently told Joy Reid it's okay to cut off family members if they voted for Trump and tell them, I'm not going to be around you this holiday. Oh, how pure. You know who I really wouldn't want to have Thanksgiving dinner with? This overly educated, i.e. extremely stupid, ivory tower academic. But I would, because if we ever want this nation to heal, this is what we have to do. Force ourselves to reach out and find out why someone feels the way they do and make the choices they make without prejudging them a monster.
In another piece, Maher goes off on this random reality show woman for not marrying someone she deemed too conservative.
I asked him about Black Lives Matter, and I'm no expert. But when I asked him about it, he was like, I guess I've never really thought too much about it. That affected me.
Let me tell you, folks, if the standards on the left are going to be this high and politics is going to be this much of a cock block, we're never going to win elections or have any more babies.
This woman wouldn't even get a sham wedding because of the woke. This country's gone to the pits.
Because love isn't blind, it's woke.
Even when Maher criticizes Trump voters for their obsessive relationship to Trump, there's always a real sense of affection to it. In a video made in the wake of Trump being shot, Maher talks about religious MAGA people and goes out of his way to emphasize how kind he is to Christians. Play some clips of his movie Religulous.
No one thought that movie was mean-spirited, not even the religious people I interviewed.
You also share the name Miranda. Maybe you're
Right.
Carmen Miranda.
Yeah, right.
Maybe the second coming of her.
That's the way we need to be with religion. Not condescending, but also, it's the 21st century. Enough is enough with interpreting every random event as a DM from heaven.
So look, I guess my opinion on this Maher take is mixed. Like, to be clear, I think it's fine to treat MAGA people kindly and respectfully. I don't think it's politically important to shun the Republicans or whatever. Frankly, I don't think it's any of my business. But at the same time, I don't begrudge anybody who doesn't want to hang out with conservatives. Some of these people do have beliefs that hurt people in their lives. They are anti-gay or trans or pro-QAnon or whatever. At base, MAGA conservatives voted for Donald Trump, a man who's doing horrible things to a lot of people. It makes sense to be mad about a thing like that, and for that anger to mean something. That's only human, in my view. It doesn't make you an evil person or politically retrograde. Still, what I find interesting about Maher's arguments here isn't how offensive I find them, but how they speak to the way he situates himself as a political thinker. Through all these videos, Maher's main goal is to humanize Republicans. You may disagree with them or find their beliefs distasteful, but nonetheless, he is always speaking to them, not about them. But see, that political placement, that ingrouping of conservatives, it doesn't just exist in a vacuum. Rather, Maher's ingrouping of conservatives is accomplished mostly through his outgrouping and depersonalizing of the woke fucks. You, the conservative audience member, are worthy of our consideration and deference, and we know that because this Yale woman is not, because she is somehow illiberal. Even as he said he'd have Christmas dinner with her because that's what people are supposed to do, that's not really the message, right? At one point, he likens her, a black woman, to a segregationist, and that kind of says it all to me.
Oh, how pure. It's like not letting certain people sit with you on the bus.
And yes, I understand that's a joke, but the point of that joke, I think, is to assert a kind of rhetorical power over her, place her and her opinions outside of some imagined civil political world. Likewise, you, the conservative audience member, are savvy and reasonable, and we know that because we don't have to think about what progressives believe about trans people, because their beliefs are always, somehow, beyond discussion. Put simply, the woke mob is not a group of people who live in society and want things. Instead, they exist as a force exterior to politics, an affect, a funhouse mirror that assures the rest of us that we are normal, part of the true liberal public. It's a strange way of looking at things, and conveniently, it allows Maher to believe whatever he wants. And on that note, let's talk about Palestine. Bill Maher has never thought much of Palestine. In fact, if there's one issue on which he's been dazzlingly consistent, it's his general disdain for Palestine, or really for Arabs as a whole. In his movie Religulous, after having friendly, though condescending conversations with Christians, he goes around to different Muslims and just grills them on the Quran in this really odd way.
Passages that say the infidel is not the equal of the believer, the infidel will die in hell, don't feel bad about hating the infidel.
No.
No? Boy, I've got bad information.
Yes, you have. I think so.
You think that means...
No.
No. I'm wrong about everything.
The way I perceive things in the Quran is not about killing infidels or
But you have read it
or
in there.
homosexuals. Of course I read the Quran.
And you've read those passages.
Yeah, I've read those
and what
passages.
did you think when you read them?
No, but I explained those passages within the time in which they emerged.
But that's not how people read holy books. People don't read holy books and go,
But-
well, that was good for then. People read holy
but I
books and
think-
go, this is
I
the
don't
word
agree.
of God, it's forever.
No, I don't
That's
agree.
how most people do it.
No, I don't agree.
And then when the Muslims say they don't like violence, he's like, well, they wouldn't say that to me.
I just don't buy it that these guys are in this state of denial. I think they're just in a state of denial to an outsider. They will not admit anything is wrong with their culture to an outsider.
It's a puzzling moment. The Bible is filled with all sorts of insane shit, but Bill Maher never asks a Christian or Jew if they think adulterers should be killed. He doesn't assume that this Christian guy is homophobic. No, the guy volunteers that information.
Nobody's born gay. There's no scientific...
Really? Have you ever met Little Richard?
But you know what? We can look at creation and say, what's the normal order?
It's only Muslims who need this kind of treatment, and they're all lying, as it turns out. He also has a segment in the film where he argues with an anti-Zionist rabbi for a few minutes and gets really mad.
Never again, Rabbi, never again.
What was that?
No. I'm out.
It's a striking inclusion because, of course, religion weighs heavily on all sides of this discourse. How many rabbis are adamant believers in the mission of Zionism? A lot, right? Are any of those people in the movie? Just to give you another example, in 2022, Bill Maher did an interview with Benjamin Netanyahu, and I find it particularly telling. Maher starts with a number of softball questions. What do you think of Kanye West? What do you think of the stinky politicians who say Israel's bad?
My first question, Kanye West this week has said, I'm a bit sleepy tonight, but when I wake up, I'm going DEFCON 3 on Jewish people. Will Israel retaliate? I have three questions for you. Are you massacring Palestinians? Are you ethnic cleansing? And are you an apartheid state?
No, no, and no. I mean, these are all ridiculous.
But then he asks this.
But could you become an apartheid state? The critics of Israel here in America and some in your own country talk about the fact that Israel is kind of a population time bomb, and that if 51% of Israel would become Arab, because you do have Arab citizens who are actually treated better in Israel with more rights and more freedoms than they are in their own and other Arab countries. But if 51% of Israel became Arab, then you would have to become an apartheid state. Is that something that you think about as much as your critics do?
It's an odd question. Maher seems to imply that concerns over maintaining Jewish majority in Israel is some hypothetical future problem when it's actually one of the central animating features of Israeli politics, right? It's the biggest reason why a right to return for Palestinians is seen by many as an unworkable solution. I don't know this, of course, but I suspect that Maher wanted Netanyahu to reassure his audience. We're not worried about demographics, he could say. Those Arabs can breed as much as they want. Don't be silly. Netanyahu doesn't say that, though.
They're about 20% of Israel's population is Arabs, and they're really the only Arabs in the Middle East who enjoy full and equal civic rights in the Israeli democracy. And I've also made it an effort to incorporate them in the tremendous success story that is Israel. And I'm happy to see that that is happening. But the demographic balance is maintained. The most important thing is the democratic balance is maintained.
The demographics are maintained, he says. And really, what does that mean? Who's maintaining them? What are you doing to maintain them? If you can't maintain them, will that be okay? What would happen then? It's a cryptic and I think frightening remark, and one that completely dodges Bill Maher's question. But does Maher say anything? Does he offer a follow-up? No, of course not. This all leads us to one conclusion. Maher is, and always has been, quite stridently on the side of Israel. He is fundamentally uninterested in questioning Israeli ideology, and that much would be obvious to even the most ardent Maher defender. Because he has a history with this sort of belief, it's not surprising that in the wake of Hamas's attack on October 7th, in the wake of Israel's full-scale occupation of Gaza and its mass killing of Palestinians, Maher would uncritically support Israel. Still, the way he goes about this task is interesting and strange, and I think an extension of the rhetoric we've been talking about. Around the 1-year anniversary of October 7th, Bill Maher released an editorial called Dear Chapel Roan.
To mark the October 7th anniversary, we must launch a campaign to educate young Americans about the Middle East. And the way I'd like to begin that process is by addressing an open letter to Chapel Roan.
For context, Chapel Roan, the pop star, has made a few pro-Palestine statements over the course of her career. In 2024, she was invited to perform at the White House for Joe Biden and considered taking the opportunity to protest the U.S.'s support for Israel, though she ultimately just declined the invitation. And then, a few months after that, she made a TikTok where she discussed her frustrations with both Democrats and Republicans, her refusal to overtly endorse Kamala Harris for president, even though she planned on voting for her.
Fuck the policies of the right, but also fuck some of the policies on the left.
And the main things she talked about were trans rights and Palestine.
Fuck Trump for fucking real, but fuck some of the shit that has gone down in the Democratic Party that has failed people like me and you. And more so, Palestine.
So how does Maher deal with this TikTok? Well, he gives a bit of an oddball response, I think.
You killed at Coachella this year, but when Hamas kills at a music festival, it's a whole other thing.
Maher makes a lot of arguments in this editorial. He argues that Israel is Jewish ancestral homeland as described by the Bible, and so it can't be a colonial project.
But Israel is the Jews' homeland, and Jews have always lived there. I cap you not. You can look it up. It's in this book called The Bible.
He argues that Palestine didn't used to be seen as a country, so that's interesting for some reason.
Chapel, did you know that for 2,000 years, Palestine was like an Uber driver with a 3-star rating? Nobody wanted it. And there was never any Arab country called Palestine.
His favorite argument, though, is that Palestine fucking sucks. That Chapel Roan, a gay woman, would be killed there. That fundamentalist Islamic regimes are oppressive to women.
You're a female drag queen, and you sing, "I fucked you in the bathroom when we went to dinner, your parents at the table." Yeah, that wouldn't fly in Gaza, although you would straight off a roof. Chapel, you're not wrong that oppression is bad, or that Palestinian and many other Muslim populations are oppressed and deserve to be freed. You just have it completely ass backwards as to who is doing the oppressing.
He made another video responding to the woke protesting college students where he says the same thing.
Kids, if you really want to change the world and not just tie up Monday morning traffic, this is the apartheid that desperately needs your attention. Gender apartheid.
You might remember something here. This is precisely the same argument that Maher made against woke land acknowledgements at the Oscars.
What the European invaders did to the Indians, not good, but also not unusual. American Indians waged wars constantly.
You feel so bad about American imperialism, but these people weren't so great. Some indigenous people practice cannibalism, so isn't it best to move on? In another video, he even takes on that same tone.
Was it unjust that even a single Arab family was forced to move upon the founding of the Jewish state? Yes, but it's also not rare, happening all through history, all over the world, and mostly what people do is make the best of it.
Sure, the Nakba was bad, but these things happen. People are bad in general, so all past injustice committed in the name of Western civilization should be just kind of looked over. In moments like this, it seems Maher almost wants to imagine the current atrocities against Gaza as a historical relic, a potentially unfortunate moment that is somehow already buried deep in the past. So we could try to respond to these arguments, but the thing is, I'm not even sure what that would mean in this context. Maher is literally just listing off irrelevant buzzwords. Like Chapel Roan's TikTok, it's pretty simple, right? All she's saying is, the US is funding Palestinian death and I don't like it.
Because there is no way I can stand behind some of the left's completely transphobic and completely genocidal views.
And if you wanted to respond to that point, you'd presumably have to actually justify Israel's actions. I think you all probably know this at this point, but Israel has killed at least around 60,000 people. Without a doubt, the true number is far, far higher. 92% of housing units in Gaza have been damaged or destroyed, leaving millions of people displaced without secure access to food and water. Amnesty International concluded that Israel is committing genocide, that they deliberately inflicted conditions of life on Palestinians in Gaza intended to lead over time to their destruction. In their report, they cite Israel's intentional damage to life-preserving infrastructure, their sweeping and arbitrary evacuation orders, and their cutting off of aid. Back in May, officers in the Israeli government claimed that Israel was taking Gaza to the brink of total starvation. And in a recent report, IDF soldiers stationed at one of the few remaining aid distribution centers Israel permits claimed that they were ordered to shoot at unarmed Gazans trying to get food. One soldier describes it as a killing field, said that, quote, "Where I was stationed, between 1 and 5 people were killed every day. They're treated like a hostile force, no crowd control measures, no tear gas, just live fire with everything imaginable. Our form of communication is gunfire." This isn't complicated, right? If all that stuff is true, and it is, then it makes sense for Chapel Roan to not like it. There is no history she could learn, no recognition of the badness of fundamentalist Islam, no acknowledgement that every society has done bad things that could possibly bear down on her one-sentence argument. See, Maher isn't responding to Roan here, but he's not quite strawmanning her either. It's more like she is a non-entity to him, a vessel to be filled with arbitrary and meaningless gibberish, a way of avoiding questions he doesn't like to answer. Maher doesn't like Trump. He even called his plan for Gaza wacky.
I told him I thought parts of his plan for Gaza were wacky.
Pretty intense condemnation there, Bill. Maybe take a breather and collect yourself before you come out with accusations like kinda wacky. But honestly, it does kind of make sense, because Trump said he wanted to relocate 2 million Gazans, have America take control of the Strip, and turn the whole thing into the next French Riviera. Wacky as it might be, though, there is somebody out there who actually doesn't mind Trump's plan. Benjamin Netanyahu. He seemed downright excited by it. Make Gaza intolerable to the people living there, have them voluntarily move, and then let America have at it for a little while. You know, it sounds great for him. Maher doesn't like religion. He made a whole movie about it, remember that? But not everybody shares that feeling. I alluded to this before, but what of the extremist Jews who settle the West Bank and want to settle Gaza?
וכל עזה וכל לבנון, כל זה צריכים לשאוף לנקות את הארץ מרוכבי הגמלים.
What of the radically far-right religious Zionist party that now has unprecedented power in Israel's politics? Bezalel Smotrich, Ben Gvir. But these concerns for liberalism, for secularism, can be put out of mind so easily. Kids are wearing Queers for Palestine t-shirts, students are protesting apartheid, Chapel Roan is acting woke. That's all you need to say. So during the press campaign for the first season of The Apprentice, that is Donald Trump's reality television show, he went on Ellen DeGeneres and had a conversation with her about the show, and she asks him to explain the premise of The Apprentice, and this is what he says.
Explain the premise of the show.
Well, it's a little bit of the jungle of New York. New York is the toughest place in the world, and we show the real jungle, and the real jungle is in New York. And Mark Burnett, who's a great friend of mine who did Survivor, I used to tell him, I said, Mark, the toughest jungle, it's not where you are with all these Survivor jungles.
It's not the Survivor jungles.
The toughest jungle is the jungle of Manhattan, the jungle of New York. And he said to me the other day, you know, Donald, you're right.
He said you're right. He said you're right. If I had to explain to somebody why Donald Trump is a popular politician, this would be the first clip that I showed them. Because this man is he's terminally comfortable, right? He's just so fucking comfortable saying whatever banal, stupid thoughts pop into his head. He feels zero shame whatsoever. It's not just that he says this sort of insane, rambling, braggadocious thing. It's that there's not a sense that he even understands that it's bragging. He's just so incredibly comfortable all the time.
I used to tell him, I said, Mark.
That's why I think people like him. So I started working on this video many months ago now, and when I was maybe half finished with the script, Bill Maher got national attention for one of his opinion pieces. Around April 2025, Maher went to the White House to have dinner with President Donald Trump, and he released a segment about it.
As you know, 12 days ago, I had dinner with President Trump, a dinner that was set up by my friend Kid Rock, because we share a belief that there's got to be something better than hurling insults from 3,000 miles away.
It makes sense that people got mad at this video because it is very stupid. Like, for the record, I don't care that Bill Maher got dinner with the prez. This fact means nothing to me. I do think, though, that it's bad to gas him up for 12 minutes straight because he wasn't mean to you.
Trump was gracious and measured, and why he isn't that in other settings, I don't know, and I can't answer, and it's not my place to answer. I'm just telling you what I saw, and I wasn't high.
Maher is shockingly positive about the president in this video. He spends the entire time talking about how good Trump is at listening, how he takes things in.
I've had so many conversations with prominent people who are much less connected, people who don't look you in the eye, people who don't really listen because they just want to get to their next thing, people whose response to things you say just doesn't track, like, what? None of that with him. And he mostly steered the conversation to, what do you think about this? I know. Your mind is blown. So's mine.
How he seems much cooler than Obama or Clinton were.
And honestly, I voted for Clinton and Obama but I would never feel comfortable talking to them the way I was able to talk with Donald Trump. That's just how it went down. Make of it what you will.
It's a lot watching it.
He was asking me about the nuclear situation in Iran in a very genuine, hey, I think you're a smart guy, I want your opinion sort of way. And I said, well, obviously you're privy to things about it I'm not, but for what it's worth, I thought the Obama deal was worth letting play out because we made Iran destroy 98% of the uranium and they were 15 years away from a bomb. And then I said to him, but we got rid of that. You got rid of that. He didn't get mad or call me a left-wing lunatic. He took it in.
Wow, he took your constructive criticism in? He didn't beat the shit out of you? That's pretty awesome, actually. More to the point, Maher's argument just doesn't make any sense to me. Like, at the end, he says this.
Look, I get it. It doesn't matter who he is at a private dinner with a comedian. It matters who he is on the world stage. I'm just taking as a positive that this person exists because everything I've ever not liked about him was, I swear to God, absent, at least on this night with this guy.
And to be honest, I just don't know why that's a good thing, why it's good at all that Trump is nicer and more understanding in person. If anything, that's worse, right? It's worse to have the faculty of reason, the capacity to be kind, and then turn around and do insane, horrible shit all the time. At one point, Maher mentions the election of 2020 and says this.
I don't remember exactly what we were talking about, but it must have been something with the 2020 election because I know he used the word lost, and I distinctly remember saying, wow, I never thought I'd hear you say that. He didn't get mad. He's much more self-aware than he lets on in public.
Donald Trump undermined American democracy in a really fundamental way in 2020. For the first time ever, a sitting president refused to accept the results of an election, and a lot of people bought into his bullshit. They stormed the Capitol over it. And it's not encouraging to me that Trump acknowledges in private venues that he lost in 2020. In the business, that's actually what we call admitting to defrauding the American people in a desperate bid for power. Maher wants us to treat this as good, reassuring news, but it's not clear why. Much like any corrupt leader, Trump spends a lot of time wielding access as a political and economic tool. He auctions private dinners to people who buy his cryptocurrency. He courts unprecedented donations from the private sector. He attempts to prevent reputable newspapers from attending his press briefings when he deems them insufficiently loyal. It is not surprising to me at all that Trump was friendly to Bill Maher in person. The president no doubt understands that Maher is a potential political ally and wants good press from ostensibly liberal sources. This is something a child could understand, yet Maher is either unwilling or unable to understand it. Why? What's going on? Well, I don't have the answer, I can't know the truth, but in some way, I see it as the ultimate expression of Maher's theory of wokeness. The woke mob is an abstract and dehumanized entity. Wokeness exists exterior to the normal public, and we don't have to understand woke people within any kind of political context. Well, Donald Trump isn't like that. He has an interiority. He can laugh at your jokes, act like he's taking things in.
He laughs. I'd never seen him laugh in public, but he does, including at himself. And it's not fake.
He's not the empty husk we were all worried about. He's a normal MAGA conservative. You must have Christmas dinner with him. Maher says that in 2024, Democrats lost a crazy contest to a crazy person, but as it turns out, Trump isn't crazy at all. I guess it's just the Dems then. What's more, because the woke public is the direct and proximate cause of Donald Trump's election, Donald Trump kind of isn't. He isn't the reason America turned against the Democrats, the reason conservatives voted for him and liked him. Sure, Trump may be the fire, but fires aren't responsible for themselves. They don't ask to be lit. So why not have dinner with him? Why not like him? America is not his doing. Put simply, if you cast some cultural tendency as the ultimate antagonist of politics, well, there you go. That's your antagonist. They must be worse in some way than the outcomes they cause. We started this video talking about that Marvel opinion piece, right? Maher being a stranged weeb about the death of Stan Lee.
Bragging that you're all about the Marvel universe is like boasting that your mother still pins your mittens to your sleeves.
And while I don't like what that video's saying, while it speaks, I think, to a mean-spirited attitude, there was something humble about it. Maher hates this group of people for no reason, and that's kind of it.
I'm sorry, but if you're an adult playing with superhero dolls, I'm sorry. I mean collectible action figures. Why not go all the way and drive to work on a big wheel?
There is no important conclusion, no wild prognostications. He's just an asshole. I don't think that Maher has really changed all that much in the last 10 years. I'm not trying to argue that there's been some fundamental shift in his politics. I mean, in his original adulting blog post, he, I think jokingly, blames Trump's election on the Stan Lee fans. Not too much has changed. But I do think there's a helpful contrast here between this segment and some of Maher's modern work. Because most of the videos we've talked about today, they're not actually opinion pieces. They don't argue their point with any kind of coherence. They aren't founded in the words and actions of other people. They often don't come to a meaningful conclusion at all. Instead, these pieces exist only to justify the absence of thought, the absence of specificity, to replace politics with a series of empty and self-satisfied cliches. All this woke stuff might seem super stupid and frivolous to you. The word woke, as conservatives have appropriated it, is really dumb and embarrassing, and it frankly just feels weird to see an elderly man say it over and over again.
You can't blame someone for not being woke 30 years before woke was a thing. And this is yet another example of how the woke invert the very thing that used to make liberals liberals. I don't get the woke.
But it's not frivolous. It is, at least within Bill Maher's mind, unbelievably powerful. A social theory that contains every answer, that can identify every harm and resolve every problem. It is a social theory that is so useful to Maher, so all-encompassing, that it can lead to this preposterous and absurd outcome. Looking at a man you supposedly hate, making a bit of insane propaganda about him, and saying, wow, the woke will hate this.
What I'm going to do is report exactly what happened. You decide what you think about it. And if that's not enough pure Trump hate for you, I don't give a fuck.
Yeah! So that's the end of the video. If you want to, you can go to my Patreon and get bonus videos that I make every month. You can also get those on Nebula. You get the idea. But I know what you're really here to watch. Me unboxing the Mr. Beast stuff. This is Mr. Beast Lab, make your own Mr. Beast. Okay. Alright, so this is my beast. Okay. I'm an adult. Mr. Beast wouldn't make this too hard for my baby mind to understand, so just gotta open this up. Gotta fucking open this up. Okay. So I'm gonna go ahead and assume that I put the slime in the... and then I put the top on. Oh shit. How do I open this boy up? Okay. Alright, so then I take... Oh god. Oh god. Oh god. Okay, I take his head and I pop it on like that, I guess, and then go... Oh, then I go... Do you see that? You seen that? He's getting... Oh god. Alright, so that was pretty awesome. I guess I'd rate that maybe five stars, or, Mr. Beast really popped off with that one. Got goo all over me, but that's alright. So let's move on and talk about Mr. Beast's Lab Swarm. Open this up. Open it up, add some wah, wait 15 seconds, and then dump it out. Shake it for 30 seconds. So open this up. Fuck. Shit. Fuck. I'm gonna go ahead and open this up. Okay. So this seems to be some sort of a monster. Dump him in. Should I start with one? I'll start with one. Then I'll fill two. I'll fill this sucky up. And then I close up the capsule. I shake it up. 30 seconds. It's not like perfectly tight, man. I don't know how to close it fully. It's gross. It's not closing. Am I stupid? Okay, all right, fuck it. I'm gonna dump this out. I'll be back in a second. Okay, so what I got in the end was this kind of creature, and I guess that's what you want to see. It seems like maybe you're just kind of like washing off the swarm beasts, and it's not. You see, I thought it was gonna grow or something, or like something really cool would happen, but it just seems like it. So it starts off with something like this, and then you just like kind of clean it up, and then it looks like this or something.
You want to wash these?
No.
You want to wash these up?
No.
You want to clean them up?
No. This is what this creature looks like now. Okay, do you see it?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, and then I'm gonna go ahead and...
Yeah, clean it up.
It doesn't close tight, Mr. Beast. Mr. Beast! It doesn't close tight. I'm getting wet. All your toys involve me getting hosed down.
All right, okay. Is he done yet? Is he cooked?
All right, let's find out. I just don't really get it.
It's just a toy that you wet.
This is what it looks like now. Can you see the difference? All right, now we move on to our last thing, which is, I believe, not commissioned by the Beast himself, a 101 facts activity book, Mr. Beast, activities, quizzes, quotes, and more. Let's just peruse. Did you know Mr. Beast's real name is Jimmy Donaldson? Did you know Mr. Beast's real name is Jimmy Donaldson? Mr. Beast created his YouTube channel in 2012 at age 13. His early videos focused on gaming, especially Minecraft and Call of Duty. Mr. Beast is renowned for his acts of kindness, from giving away money and cars to supporting important charitable causes worldwide. Not according to Saran Kaba Jones. Did you know he often collaborates with fellow YouTubers and friends? Thank you for watching this video today. I appreciate it. And I'll see you in the next one. Again, you can go to my Patreon or Nebula if you want to and watch more of me talking at you.